We're live. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Welcome to This is Axios, a new podcast and YouTube channel. Today's first guest is going to be a close friend of mine and previous coworker. So I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Am I supposed to look at the camera?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Hey, I'm Andrew, Jacob's close friend and previous coworker.
Awesome. So Andrew's here today. Andrew has had plenty of life experiences, kind of seen both ends of the spectrum, and is now a rather successful instructor. So if you want to go into just a little bit of detail about what it is you do currently, and kind of the experiences you've had with that, you can look at me. It's okay.
Sorry, I mean, I've never done anything like this before.
No, you're good, man.
And I guess thanks for having me on your show. I don't feel like
Appreciate it.
that interesting, but for some reason you want to hear about my story. So I guess what I do is I'm an instructor at Vermont High Tech. I go into companies that need to hire people for certain positions. My focus is on advanced manufacturing mostly. So they hire us to help kind of fulfill some of their education and training needs. So I go in, I learn the job, and then I build curriculum. It's kind of like a classroom style to help teach people how to learn the fundamentals of that job. So once they leave our classroom, they're able to basically hit the floor and do the position running.
Awesome. Okay, and so you said you go into different companies. Is that something? Do you know like how many companies you have worked with, or is there one that kind of stands out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I cut my teeth basically on Husky injection molding.
Nice.
So I went in there, I job shadowed all around the plant, learned a ton of their machines, and helped build the curriculum to teach people. And that program is still running together today. I've trained instructors to continue basically after I moved on to other companies. The one I'm working for right now, Vermont Thread Gauge, down here in Kentucky.
Yes.
With that funny accent that you have.
Oh, you gotta love the accent, man. That's what
I've learned so many fun Kentuckyisms.
It's that southern charm, man.
It's great. I love it down here. I love it.
Yeah.
I do not miss the snow at all.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But anyway, so down here, I've learned how to basically be a thread grinder. Vermont Thread Gauge, you need to grind threads, obviously. And I'm actually just kind of wrapping up down here. And I've trained another instructor here to kind of carry the torch after I go.
Great. Okay. And so that kind of brings up a good point. You said you are down here in Kentucky. You are from Vermont.
That's true.
Born and raised, right?
Oh yeah.
So I guess just kind of a brief synopsis, if you will, of how you got from where you were, kind of your story from where you were to packing up and moving to Kentucky to start a whole new program. And
I mean, that's
I know that's a lot to unpack.
I mean, where do you want me to start? Like, when two people love each other very, very much.
Let's not get too graphic. I guess, when was it that you kind of, I guess, began a road to better yourself, to...
You assume I was ever not awesome.
Man, I know you, and I know you're not.
So, I had a rough time back in the day. I made some mistakes when I was younger, as many of us do.
As we all do, yeah.
So I was in college. For a while, I was a college dropout, technically.
Wow.
I was in a weird place. I was working food service. So I went to school for mechanical engineering. I'm pretty bright. Math, science, these types of things do come pretty easily to me. But I was in a place where I didn't feel like going to school, I guess. And I don't know, I let it lapse. I went too far, and I ended up dropping out for a while. So I was working food service, kind of living day to day off my,
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck, and I was homeless, quote unquote, but
Mm.
really I was basically living on my buddy's couch, and it
Couch
just
surfing to some
couch
degree.
surfing. I
Yeah.
mean, I had my couch.
True.
That was my couch. But no, yeah, I was living on my buddy's couch, and it's just like, this is not how I want to live. So I was kind of in a rut and got stuck, and then my uncle, who actually works for the company I work for now,
Okay.
told me about the programs that they run.
Mhm.
So I ultimately ended up applying for one of the programs for
Awesome.
Allscripts, and I went through. It's a company called Allscripts. I went through the entire hiring process, and I was really excited about it, but ultimately I didn't end up getting selected to join the program, so that was kind of a bummer.
Sure.
But I mean, I guess maybe this is a bit of nepotism here, but my uncle's boss ended up calling me in to do an interview and basically offered me the chance to join the company as an intern. And I was an intern. Like I remember my first week. So imagine going from the lifestyle of living on a couch, staying up late, waking up at 11, to having to be in an office at 7 a.m. every morning.
Did you prefer waking up at 11 or going to the office?
Oh, I loved sleeping in. It was great. I mean, I can't sleep in anymore because I wake up at 5 a.m.
True.
every day. But back then, it was an adjustment. And
Mhm.
so I get, on my first day, I remember, I go in and they give me a stack of textbooks. And they say, read every textbook and do every problem in the textbook. And it was all on machining. But so I'd go in at 7 a.m. and start reading until 4 p.m. And part of my mentorship program is I was investing in myself, so I was doing work
Sure.
outside of work also. So I
Okay.
basically
Awesome.
lived and breathed. Just it was all machining topics, and so
Cool.
But so one of my coworkers later told me, so you go from waking up at 11 to waking up at 6 a.m. every day. I was exhausted.
Can
So
imagine.
I'm sitting at a desk and trying to read these textbooks and just nodding off, and not some of the people that were there and saw me like joke now about how they would look over and I was sleeping over a textbook like at work. So yeah, it was an adjustment, but
But you came out on the right side of it.
I came out on the right side of it. So
Yeah.
this man that basically was my mentor, he hired me, but one of the conditions was that I had to go back to school and graduate. So they worked with me. Obviously my schedule is very, very flexible.
Definitely.
This wasn't really like a employee-employer relationship. It was more like a mentor-mentee type thing.
For sure.
So I had a lot to learn, a lot to learn. And I ended up going back to school, and that final semester that I needed, I got straight A's.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
I think I got, no, actually, rocket science class, I didn't get an A in. I got a B in that. It was literal rocket science, though.
believe me, I think I would have got a big fat F in rocket science. Failure to launch.
Yeah.
um,
All right.
But so you had mentioned of course that last semester went so much better for you. Because you were applying yourself, right? I mean, before that, you had kind of just, for lack of a better term, kind of skipped through. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was a real adult. I was there to learn, not because it was the right next
expected.
step. Yeah,
for sure.
When you're 18 to 21, like you're not an adult, and you have the rights and responsibilities of an adult.
But
think
there's still a lot of brain that needs to be formed.
You still have some lessons to learn about how the world works, and I guess what you really 100%. Want out of life. Like, did you know what you wanted when you were 18?
I still don't know what I want.
Yeah.
To a large degree.
I'm 31 and I don't know what I want.
So,
but I know I'm getting there.
Well, to a large degree, that's the whole point of life, is just pick a direction.
Setting goals, achieving goals, and then setting a new goal.
Just keep on going. I mean, that's the thing, and unfortunately, until the day that we're no longer here, you're always striving for something, and if you're not, you're falling behind. And anyways, that was a little bit of a subcategory there. So you applied yourself. You kind of got back on track,
Yep.
in a large degree.
I got a tattoo to commemorate it.
True.
Actually.
Well, is that on your calf?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That's the Robert Frost poem.
Okay.
The woods
Yeah.
are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep.
Are the promises to yourself?
Yeah, well, to
Yeah.
myself and to my family and the people that have invested their time and energy into
True.
growing me into a productive human rather than
For sure.
just a person on a couch.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
And so people that invested time into you, you mentioned your mentor. How how great of an effect do you think having a mentor like that was? So
oh, it's profound.
profound. Do you think that was kind of a make or break?
It it made me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know where I would be without that man in my life. Like he pushed me
Mm.
harder. Yeah, I learned that what I thought were my
Mm.
limits were not my limits. But yeah, it's
Awesome.
I am lucky to have found this person to help me get to where I am today.
And I think that's a really big thing. Of course, being rather young myself, is
I'll be your mentor.
yeah. Well, and to be honest, in a large way, genuinely, you have helped me, both
You're gonna make
professionally
me
and.
blush, Jacob.
You're ginger. You're already blushing.
Get out of here! I'm not ginger. My beard is ginger.
Just with you, but ginger. You genuinely have been both professionally and become great friends because of it. But I think as being someone young, especially early 20s, oftentimes people my age and even myself to a large degree, we want to tackle the world ourselves.
Yeah, of course.
And to a large degree, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to realize when you need help and when you need that extra push. And
Absolutely.
again, I think that's something that everybody can take away from it is finding someone that is 3 steps ahead of where you are, 3 steps ahead of where you want to be, things like that. So,
exactly.
um, so again, now that you have, you're in the position now, you've you've come a long way, you've come across this journey. Um, is there one specific lesson that you can, if you're gonna relay that to me, would it be the mentor? Would it be?
Oh, I guess one that I've taken to heart pretty recently is the phrase "the only way out is through,"
Okay.
which I guess it's kind of like embrace the suck. Like you got to put the
True.
work in to get to the other side. There's no shortcuts really. Like any
Okay.
shortcuts that you might find are really just kind of screwing you in the end. Like you really just gotta just get through the shit, man. Like get there. Like you just gotta do it.
Well, and I found that interesting. I also heard and I'm not sure if this is his quote or if he took it from someone else, but I was listening to a speech that Denzel Washington gave the other day. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Now I do what you're talking about.
It was actually like a graduation speech. It was a commencement speech.
Of course.
And he was saying, especially like when you want to do new things or big things, everyone around you, what's your plan B? What's your backup plan? And he said, man, I don't have a backup plan. He said, if I want to fall, I don't want to fall backwards. I don't want to fall back on someone or on something.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I want to know what I'm falling into. He said, I want to see it, and he said, so always fall forward. If you fell, fall forward, learn from it, and then repeat, keep on pushing. So I thought that was interesting, and obviously it shows you're somewhat wise. Not that much. Don't get a big head.
Please. No one's ever accused me of having a
Okay.
big head.
So, all right. An instructor, obviously you're relaying not only messages similar to this, but technical messages to plenty of people, on a daily basis or, throughout your career.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys use the Socratic teaching method.
Yes, we do.
So personally, and what I've seen of you kind of demonstrate that,
Yeah.
I feel like it could be useful in a lot of areas.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
mean, the Socratic teaching method is solid, man.
True. So both in teaching, relaying new things,
Sure.
debating, getting points across as well.
All right.
Um,
I'm not the best debater, but I will take your word for it.
well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I think it could be useful
Sure.
in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So could you kind of just go over that real quick and what it is and why you think it's
Go over the Socratic method.
just briefly? I know there's a lot involved in that, but
Sure. Okay. So the Socratic method. What's the key word?
I'm sorry.
In the Socratic method. So it's Socratic, right?
Oh, okay, yes.
So
Sorry.
what does Socratic mean?
I know he was a philosopher.
Socrates
Socrates,
was a
yes.
very famous Greek philosopher.
But
Yeah.
no, I do not know what Socratic
So
itself
I
means.
mean, do you know what Socrates' claim to fame was?
Enlighten me.
I mean, that's the whole point, right? He's trying to enlighten you.
Yes.
But he had a very specific method to his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea what that was?
I know at least, being kind of involved in the class and things that it's more so letting the, I guess, recipient or trainee or whatever you want to call it, kind of try to come to the answer to the solution organically, kind of on their own.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
But, all right, so I guess I'll just spill the beans here. It's not very Socratic of me.
you tried. I'm just a bad student.
Socrates was known for seeking truth through questioning. So
Okay.
that's what I was trying to do with you, is kind of question you to lead you to the answer.
Okay.
So that's kind of the whole basis of the Socratic method. When my students ask me a question, I do my best to not outright give them an answer. I want to ask them questions to help them, lead them to find their own question, find their own answers. So I guess one of our claim to fame is we'll assign our homework before we've ever discussed it in class. So what they're required to do is go home and try to do the work before we ever discussed it, suffer through it, be frustrated, and then they come in the next day, and then we go over it. They ask questions, I ask questions, and we basically come to our own solutions through this kind of. I'm not really like lecturing. I'm more of a facilitator in front of people.
That sounds a little cruel, to be honest.
Well, we don't grade them on their homework. So
okay, so
basically, they have to struggle through it. They have to try every problem, but they don't have to get it right. We don't care if you get it right or wrong. We just want you to.
It's the thinking process.
Put the time in and bash your head up against the wall. And we're able to teach so much in such a short amount of time because there's this requirement to struggle. Like it's the struggle and the frustration, and then you come in the next day with all these questions like, how do I do this problem, or why didn't this work? I don't know. It's so there's two methodologies at play. So there's the flipped classroom. Sorry, Mike. There's the flipped classroom, which basically is the homework ahead of time model that I just described to you, and then there's the Socratic teaching method where I will ask questions of my students and lead them down this path rather than just answer any question outright that they ask me. Excuse me. So what we've found is it's a really effective teaching model. I mean, there's a time commitment, and so like all of this falls apart if a student doesn't do their homework, for instance. So we heavily weight doing the homework and putting the work in and participation in class. Like you have to be an active learner to really gain from the system. But it's extraordinary what I've seen over the years working this method with people.
Okay, so in the big thing that I'm kind of picking up on that is you mentioned struggle a lot, and it is a lot about trying to get them to kind of activate their own curiosity. Would that be a good?
Yeah, like you have to want this in order to do it. Like what we offer is not easy. It's not the easiest way to get credit for doing something, but it offers deep learning in a very quick amount of time, I guess.
Okay. Well, and the way I think that kind of, or the reason that I think that resonates so much with me is obviously I'm not too far outside of college or even high school
Yeah.
to a large degree, which was mainly someone sitting in front of a room, pointing at a screen, and
Well, that's what lectures used to be. Like
yeah,
where lecturing originally came from is when books were not common. Like you couldn't
true,
just get a textbook.
mm,
So like back in the day, I guess I
yeah,
don't have any specific dates, but I'm picturing
yeah,
medieval times. A lecture was you would go into a room and your instructor would sit there with a book
hmm
and read the book to you. That's a lecture. Today, books are. I mean, obviously, books are everywhere. You
yeah,
can read.
right here,
Yeah, there's
they're
books there.
everywhere.
You can read stuff online. Like you don't need someone to read at you anymore. You can read yourself. Everyone should be able to read. Let's assume that people can read.
Mm,
So you can do that reading and you can try the work. I mean, it really doesn't even matter if you understand it when you're working on it by yourself. It's just that you've tried to understand it,
okay,
and then you can, when you talk about it the next day, you process it and you
mm,
massage it, and conversations will go one way sometimes, another way
mm,
other times. And my job is really to make sure those conversations don't go too far and kind of
okay,
bring it back to the core topic.
okay, for sure.
And that it's just I don't know. I found it's an amazing way to learn. I wish back when I was in school this was how it was done.
How they taught.
Yeah.
So, and I think that kind of brings us into another situation altogether. I would consider both of us lifelong learners, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, it, do you see a way for an individual to kind of apply a Socratic style of learning, whether it be something like machining or, video editing or philosophy or whatever it may be? Do you feel there's a way that we can apply this concept for individuals trying to seek knowledge um,
Um,
outside of their college education, or maybe they don't have a college education. Maybe they're trying to better themselves
I don't
in a
know.
different way.
I don't know if it would be called Socratic, but I think developing what I like to think of as the curious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a curious mindset is important for what I do. It's almost like a
Sure.
childlike wonder, like why does this work the way it does? Like always be questioning, and
Does one question always lead to another?
yeah, of course, you never really know the full true answer either.
So, but would that be Socratic in nature, kind of, even as an individual?
Maybe I guess I'm not.
And I'm just asking, just out of curiosity. I guess that's kind of getting to a
I feel
more
like I feel like
philosophical.
the Socratic method in general is like, you know, yeah, you're always questioning everything. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I guess the way I've always applied it has always been like in a facilitator or student. But
true.
as far as like the self, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Always asking more questions.
So I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you guys use kind of not directly maybe, but kind of like a scientific method version with some of your teachings at all, or am I?
I think you're looking at the TWI stuff that we were working on at one point,
Okay.
training within industry,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, I mean, it's very different than what we do.
Okay.
But it's also very effective. It's a different style of training
Mm.
that is based on the scientific method.
Okay. And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what we do, and again, the philosophy was kind of dreamed up before my time at the company, but from what I
Okay.
understand, it was meant to mimic the immersion of like military boot camp.
Okay.
So obviously, we're not training soldiers to go fight.
Yeah, but it's a very structured
Yeah,
and specific.
our program is 8 weeks long,
Mm.
and it is intense enough where you live and breathe the subject matter for that entire 8 weeks. Like you're in the classroom 8 hours a day. You are at home doing homework for most of your evening every night, so it's very immersive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and the reason I kind of went that direction is Again, those trying to, whether it be new skills or, a hobby or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
um, when we talk about like the Socratic method and trying to learn and, seeking the truth through questions and, one questions are never ending. So, how do you feel it would be to best direct your efforts through questioning? So, just sitting here in this apartment with all the cameras and the mics and
Yeah.
like there's so many things I could question, and if I did that, like I would never really get anywhere. I'd just kind of be bouncing around everywhere. So in your own personal learnings, or whether it be in class or your again kind of how you got to where you are,
Yeah.
um, what is the best way to kind of focus in on I guess the most important thing at the time, so that you're getting the most bang for your buck.
I don't know, man. Like the way I do it is pretty organic. Like if I
Mm.
get into something, I just get lost in an internet hole, follow links, and I read and read and read, and just like kind of
Between Reddit and YouTube,
yeah. I mean,
it's awful.
I'm a
It's never
redditor,
ending.
a big deal, big time. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I guess so. If I'm formally trying to learn something like for
Mm.
work, what I will do is I'll get a textbook on the topic. So I'll do a little research, find out two or three of like the most highly regarded textbooks on the topic, and I'll pick one. Reading samples, or sorry, Mike, reading samples or whatever, and
You and that
so
mic are gonna get into a
right.
fight.
So I'll get the textbook, and then I'll read. The first thing I do is I read through it as fast as I can, even if I don't understand anything. So I just do an initial read through, and then I'll start back at the beginning and start reading through with more focus and intention, and like slowly
Sure.
work my way through it chapter by chapter. I find that having at least superficial knowledge of what
Hmm.
comes later in the textbook helps me kind of understand more of the fundamentals when I go back
Sure.
and start reading,
Okay. Yeah.
very carefully again. So
Uh,
I guess that but
yeah.
that's when I'm studying a topic that is well researched. It's I'm just trying to
True.
learn like how to do linear algebra, for
Okay.
instance, rather than trying to learn how to, I don't know, start my own successful podcast
True.
like my friend Joe Rogan.
uh, yeah. Well, after you said linear algebra, I feel like I need more to drink.
Yeah,
Honestly.
no, linear algebra
um.
sucks, but it's awesome. It's actually
Uh,
really cool. It's black magic. It was black magic.
it was black magic.
Yeah, and now it's just like
I wonder if Joe
it's
Rogan
like
thinks it's
it's
black magic.
dude, it's black magic, man. You're talking about like words that sound like made up words.
Oh,
Like you're talking about Ford a bit. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff, but it's cool. It's math.
mm,
And I got a textbook. I read it, and now I'm working my way through it again with problem sets and trying to do all the
mm.
crazy black magic problems.
Black magic. Well, and
Ooh. Can I grab some of that?
yes, you can.
Thank you.
So I definitely see what you're saying. As far as there's something to be said about kind of like you said, having a superficial knowledge, and kind of prepping yourself to learn, right? Or,
Yeah. It's basically like, oh wow, is that it?
yep, go for it.
It's basically like tilling the fields, I guess. Like I don't know. Everyone has their own method, but what was suggested to me
Hmm.
uh, when I need to learn something quickly is you just dive into it, and this textbook method in particular has served me very well.
So it 'cause that kind of sounds familiar to. Have you ever read the first 20 hours? They talk quite a bit about basically like dissecting
Mm-hmm.
the different parts of what you're going to be doing. Um, so so I was wondering if that's kind of why you like read through it first, is to kind of understand. Okay, well, there's certain steps that I should or need to follow.
Now that I think about it, it's not like I don't know why I do it. It was suggested to me as a technique years ago, and I tried it, and it worked.
Okay.
And I still do it, and it still works. And it's a slog to read words you don't understand, but you try to understand them.
Mm,
But really,
for sure.
the key is you set a limit. Like you're reading through it quickly, So you don't dwell on vocab words you don't necessarily know and try to figure out. You just get through it, read, do your best to understand, but then when you go back that second time, you have so much more context.
True. Yeah, you kind of know what you're looking for.
Yeah, like your connections are firing. Like you can link this to this and this. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well,
like,
and again, kind of tying a lot of this together, I think that, especially in this kind of new age of, like we just talked about, even though you can go down a big rabbit hole, you have YouTube, you have Reddit, you have things like Skillshare. So not only I think you can take crash courses and things and get your context and kind of know where to look for more information. But you can almost have like virtual mentors in a way. Again, it's not the same, but I think it's better than what it used to be when, I'm from a small town of Glasgow, Kentucky, where Texas A&M football stadium holds more people than our entire town. So, like, as far as mentors, it's kind of few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't replace a real life inhuman mentor. Like, that's invaluable. But obviously, not everyone has that opportunity. But the ability to get online and learn about so many different things, it's better than it's ever been before. Like, you have Coursera or Udemy, is it called?
I think so, yeah.
Udemy. Or, like you said, what was that?
Skillshare.
Is that a paid service, or can you get that
it is. It's honestly, I think it's like $100 a year.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you don't have the money to pay for a paid service like that, like that's obviously really high quality, but you can learn so much shit from YouTube. Like
everything that's going on right here is basically from YouTube.
So many things from YouTube. Yeah. Although I do kind of miss like written guides. Like I play a lot of video games, and I'm so sick of watching YouTube to try to like
to figure it out.
I mean, really, I guess I shouldn't be looking at a strategy guide or whatever. But God, I miss those written guides.
Cheater.
I don't have patience for video, man. Maybe I'm just too old now. But everyone wants video, and everyone.
Yeah.
Or what's up with like Twitch? Yeah, Twitch, like where people like watch other people play video games.
Oh yeah, that I really don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get. You're young. You're the generation where Twitch is like,
it's a big thing.
People love it.
We were somewhere, right where a gal was like watching Twitch, or they were talking about somebody that had a Twitch channel.
VCV.
Yeah.
And they love it. They're all gamers at VCV.
And they were talking about how like this dude makes like thousands of dollars a month. Just
like the top game.
I was like, man,
fuck, dude. Like, you think I
was like, my parents.
Think I have it interesting. Like, I'm pretty successful. These guys are like.
My parents used to fuss when I played video games all the time. If only they knew I could have been making thousands of bucks a month, they would have like.
No one really gets there, but.
Yeah, I mean, like 1 out of Lord knows how many. But okay, so after a small intermission,
where were we again?
All right. So one thing I do want to hit on. Okay. So we were talking about kind of the online age and finding mentors. It's so much easier than ever. But I think one of the caveats to that is, although we are super official, the issue is that you do run into, anyone can have a channel. Anyone can have a podcast. Anyone can, kind of share their thoughts, and sometimes those thoughts aren't the best in the world. So, from your perspective, do you have any way to kind of sort out the good from the bad?
I mean, I have 2 quotes, and they're both from the same person. It's from the Sunscreen song.
Okay.
By Baz Luhrmann, which I believe was originally a college commencement speech. So basically, your choices are half chance, and so are everybody else's. So don't berate yourself too much, or congratulate yourself either.
That's true.
I think that was a little out of order, but it's been a while since I've actually listened to it. But I love the song. I think it's a great philosophy on life.
What is the name of that song? Do you remember off
The
the top of your head?
sunscreen song.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
you said
it's
it. The
great.
sunscreen song. I agree. You
Yeah.
actually showed that to me, and
Yeah.
it's been one of my favorite things
Yeah,
ever
just wear
since.
sunscreen, and then
It comes into this whole like, this is how you live life.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really popular back when I was your age. God, I feel so old. Back when I was
you
your
are
age.
kind of old.
Back when I was your age,
Yeah.
Jacob. Yeah, the sunscreen song was pretty cool. The other part of it was be careful whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it.
Very true, and I honestly that right there I think is the key point.
Yeah.
Again, just with so much access to the internet, so many people willing to sell their advice. I think when you see somebody that is more about the sales than they
Yeah.
are giving the advice, I think that's
Exactly.
the red flags.
I think good advice should be monetized. It's valuable, but it's so hard to figure out whose advice you should buy.
Well, and
Like,
true, and for
Yeah.
me, I am more willing to purchase someone's advice when they're willing to give more than expected for free.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
they offer their ebooks or when
exactly.
they have their Instagram accounts and they give you a litany of good advice, even if it's just like so much advice is like obvious, like keep going, like it's hard, it's tough work, the only way out is through, like all these like little bits of advice, like it's available out there for free, but there is something to be said for like the constant like reminder and the motivation, and you want to keep going.
Very true, very true. And I think a lot of that comes back to kind of generationally, is where to find that motivation.
It's tough, man.
Would
Like,
you agree as far as?
Yeah, I mean, the world is easier than it's ever been, and
It's a good point.
it's harder than it's ever been. Like it's so easy to.
It's so easy to survive, but so hard to live.
Yes, that's perfect. Like I could live my life right now without ever seeing another human being. If I wanted to, I could hole up in my apartment. I could have my food,
which is surviving.
I could have my groceries delivered to me. I could work remotely, and yeah, you're surviving. You're subsisting, but I feel like there's so much lost in translation. Is that the right phrase? I don't know.
We all have things that we would probably like to change, or even so much as to to get healthier, to start reading more books, to whatever it may be, or it could be something as like I said, it could be bad habits that we want to break, like drinking or smoking or whatever it may be.
Okay.
What's your advice there? What
advice as far as breaking bad habits?
Yeah.
Are you saying I have bad habits I need to break?
No, but I'm saying I have bad habits and I want to know how to break them.
I mean, breaking a habit is hard. I guess what I always try and do is replace a bad habit with a good habit.
Okay.
And make that habit. So it takes like what 30 days of doing something every day to make.
Yeah, that's kind of that's given, or what's given to the public anyway.
Like when I quit smoking, it was 30 days of not smoking, and then no longer a smoker. So,
cool.
Or I don't know. It's tough. So I'm fat again, but back when I wasn't fat, I started by just going for a walk every day. I started doing the whole Reddit non-zero day thing.
Okay.
You heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So there's this whole subreddit. I think it's called non-zero days, but the whole philosophy is you will not have a single day that is a 0 day. So you have to do something towards your goal every single day. So if you want to like lose weight, for instance, you cannot sit around playing video games all day. You can do something minuscule, like you could do one push-up, and that counts. That counts for your day. You cannot have any 0 days. So you start doing that, and then you find that you just want to do more.
True.
So I go for a half-hour walk.
Okay.
And I get back, and it was tough because I'm fat. And it's like, yeah, I'm huffing and puffing, my muscles are sore. But, I went for my walk,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do that again, and then I do that again, and then I go for an hour walk instead.
Okay.
Listen to my music or listen to my podcast, listen to Jacob Jones' show.
Heck yeah. So this is a great point. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click that subscribe button and like the video. Thank you.